What do you think the biggest challenges that you're hearing from veterans in general?
I'm sitting on the couch. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. I'm eating more and more. My nutrition's fallen off. I used to be able to run a 2 mile in this amount of time, and now I couldn't even walk 2 miles. We're seeing that grow, across the country, and it's concerning.
Mental health, mental wellness, physical wellness, finding a tribe like Team Red, White, and Blue's there, and there's others, but like you guys are there. Find that tribe.
It's critically important, right? I talked about in the military that, the U.S. military never does anything together. I mean, sure. One service never does anything by itself, So, I mean, sure. It provides, that combined arms team, having the Air Force jet to drop bombs and, right. all the things, right, have to come together. So that translates into the veteran space as well. Championing the voice of veterans is something that, we don't particularly maybe do well all the time for ourselves, but having you there and the team kind of taking that on and continuing to press forward and telling our stories is absolutely incredible.
Welcome to The Lasting Mission, a podcast dedicated to sharing the powerful stories and experiences of veterans, their families, and supporters. Presented by Mission Roll Call, a nonpartisan movement providing veterans with a powerful, unified voice that is heard by our nation's leaders and communities. For information, visit missionrollcall.org.
All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Ray Whitaker. I'm going to be the host of today's episode of the Lasting Mission podcast. Today, we have an impactful veteran that's going to be joining us. I'm super excited to talk about him. He's a retired Special Forces colonel. All right, I'm a little bit nervous right now. I am standing at attention. You just can't tell, by the way. He served 30 years in the U.S. Army, which that's service. He joined Team Red, White, and Blue around 2011 as a volunteer. He became a Green Beret in 2001. He has countless deployments. He's been to Afghanistan, other Middle East locations, Africa, and there's so much more. I'm positive those aren't the only locations, but those are just the ones that are, on the profile that I could find for him. And you guys know I looked at Wiki, so I'm not even sure if any of this is accurate. We're going to find out here in a minute. He comes from a family of what I would call great Americans, folks that believed in the idea of selfless service. And just to kind of give you an overview of this, his great-grandfather was a World War I veteran. His grandfather was a World War II veteran. His father was in Vietnam, so he's a Vietnam veteran. He has a twin boy and girl that are currently serving in the Army. And his third kid, we're not going to leave his third kid out because also is out there selflessly serving by fitness trainer and then, of course, meal prep. So I want to welcome today Mike Sullivan from Team Red, White, and Blue, and that is the longest name I've ever done. So welcome to the podcast, Sully.
It's good. Thank you. I look forward to talking about my service a little bit and Team Red, White, and Blue.
Yeah, I mean, the hope today, we're going to learn a little bit about you. We're going to learn a little bit about your family, right? This is,
yeah, absolutely.
There's a little bit of an honor here for me. Like we're going to talk a little bit about it, but the first thing I want you to kind of talk about, because I think everybody needs to know, let's talk about the Olympian in your family. Can you talk a little bit? And are you jealous? Like, and you can be honest with us.
No, I wouldn't say I'm jealous. I mean, I get the claim that I raised her. So, it's,
that's true.
My wife and I did something right. But yes, our daughter, Samantha Sullivan, or Captain Sammy Sullivan, is she's known as Captain being her rank. She's not the captain of the U.S. women's rugby team. She's one of the players, but she plays women's sevens rugby. It's an Olympic event, and her team brought home the bronze, the first medal in women's or any sevens rugby for the USA in history. So it was pretty epic. We were there in Paris. It was just an incredible, you're there and you feel the magnitude of it. You see the Olympic rings. There's 66,000 people in the Stade de France. It was insane. Watching your daughter play this sport, but you're so laser focused on the game and what she's doing, you kind of lose it. We came back and rewatched some of the games on Peacock, and you're just like, man, this was amazing. It was a lot of tears, some anger when they lost a couple of the games, but with that last second score by Spiff Cedric, one of the women on the team, to beat Australia, which is a team they haven't beaten over a year in international play, was just, it was like a story come true. It's like their little miracle on ice moment. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. I always think, and obviously you being inside special operations, there's a lot of pucker moments that we've had, right? And as I'm watching the Olympics, in my mind, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, you are competing for not only yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're competing for your country. You're competing for, in some cases, for a demographic. So for her, the military as part of her demographic, right? Women, there's another thing. So the pucker factor, I think of all the things that we've probably done, not that big of a deal when I start to think of how small you must feel in that moment, in that time, representing, the country that raised you. I couldn't imagine. Well, awesome for her, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it right. I think all your kids, just kind of doing a little bit of research before the pod. I mean, all of them have their own story, and they're all out what I would call doing things to impact others. And that's really where I want to start with you, is to just learn a little bit about your time in the military, and then your transition into the civilian kind of workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned it in my bio. A friend of mine used to say this about the military, especially if you have family members, but it's our family business. We joke about it in our family that hey, you're part of the family business. I grew up in a great, family with really stable, kind of middle of America. Well, I lived in Washington State with parents that, great relationship that they had, and they instilled in myself and I have an older brother and two older sisters, kind of service from the get-go. My dad, as you mentioned, was a Vietnam veteran, and something we celebrated in terms of his service in our household. We had photos of my grandfathers. I actually had 3 that served in World War II. My dad's biological father was a B-24 pilot that was shot down and killed. And he was adopted when he was 1 by Joe Sullivan, who was also a World War II veteran. So my mom's dad. So you had that bit of service. So growing up with these stories and hearing about it, I was always interested in the military. My dad then spent 26 years of my life and his life as the county prosecutor for Yakima County in Washington State. So again, a public servant who, was an elected position. And, I often, you could definitely have done other things as a lawyer. Probably made a lot more money, but was passionate about, serving the county and, and being the person that was, fighting crime. So I grew up in that environment. My mom was a volunteer and then ended up working for Catholic Family and Child Services when I was in high school, running the child care wing of the diocese there in Yakima. So just surrounded by the idea that you could get so much more out of life than just like money.
That's right.
When you dedicate your time and efforts towards something else. I had looked at the military academies myself before I went to college, but the brother and sisters that I mentioned all went to this small school in Southern California, Claremont McKenna College. I have a pennant behind me on the wall. Yeah. And it was a small school that I fell in love with, and it provided me the opportunity to play Division III sports. I played football, ended up playing rugby myself my junior and senior year. And it wasn't until I was there, I took a 2-year ROTC scholarship my junior and senior year. So I had to go to basic training at Fort Knox to get up to speed.
Yeah, you got the full induction.
Yeah,
I like
it. Was good. It was good. I enjoyed it. I'd always played team sports, and I'll steal my daughter's line as a member of the Army. She said I think it was the Today Show, she's like, I wanted to join the biggest team in the world, so I decided to join the Army.
Yeah.
So I kind of was the same aspect coming out of college. Thought I would only do it for 4 years, but then, I enjoyed what I did as a field artillery officer, and then had the opportunity to go to selection and become a special forces officer. Oh. I was in the qualification course, my language school, picking up my books on 9/11. So I had joined special forces thinking I would just do small trips around the world, training other people to, take care of themselves. And then really quick, the paradigm shifted, and it was 2 weeks after I graduated. We were in Afghanistan, for my first of 6 trips. So all my time in 3rd Special Forces Group tactically, but just surrounded by just, incredible Americans that loved doing their jobs, doing what they did. There was definitely some bad times, but the good times definitely outweighed those, and just had a blast throughout my time in Special Forces. Had an opportunity to come back to the conventional Army to be a Security Force Assistance Brigade commander.
Yeah.
Similar mission to Green Berets, but doing it with conventional folks, that was awesome towards the end of my career. And then, just this last April, hung up the boots after 30 years, and it didn't seem like it was that long. Again, like I had a very blessed career. I mean, there were definitely some tough times when you talk about combat and losing friends, seeing people get wounded and all those kinds of things. But the relationships I made, the opportunities of the things I got to do, I got to travel the world, and represent our country and just make some of the best friends ever in the world. So that was incredible. And then for Team Red, White, and Blue, it came along actually while I was on active duty. Mike Irwin, who's our founder and current executive director, he and I served in 3rd Special Forces Group together. He was the intel officer in our battalion. I was a company commander. And we went to Afghanistan for one of those trips, got really close. And it was following that trip, not too long after, a year or two after, is when he came up with the idea for Team Red, White, and Blue. He called me and said, hey, he was probably about 4 or 5 months into kind of standing the whole thing up, and said, I need you to start this in Fayetteville and then Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. I need you to get this thing off the ground, because I know you're a guy that, will see the importance of this mission and getting it going. Then a kind of a transition organization for veterans that were coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan and going back into their communities and kind of missing that camaraderie, that team kind of environment that they had built, as also, the need to maintain their physical fitness. So put those two things together, and the organization we can talk about is kind of evolved from there. But so kind of with Team RWB from the beginning as an active duty guy, and then Mike reached out when he knew I was retiring and said, hey, what do you think you're going to do moving forward? And I was like, well, I'm figuring that out. And he goes, I think you need to come work for Team RWB, since you've been such a big part of it, at least there in Fayetteville since the start. So it's been great. We joke, it's not being in the military, it's military adjacent when you join the Veterans Support Organization. Yeah. So when you're in a VSO, that you definitely are with a whole bunch of people that talk the same way, that are willing to, suffer through some events together and think it's the funnest thing ever, and other people think we're crazy. So it's great. I've kind of hit the easy button when it comes to transitioning to civilian life. Becoming, as this is my next journey, but it's an awesome place to be. It's an incredible mission to have, and getting to help veterans to continue to do the great things that they do for this nation as a part of this organization is, I jumped on the
totally
chance.
worth it. Yeah. And one of the things I know that I like to kind of talk about, or from my perspective, and again, everybody's got their opinions and kind of their process. And it's the one thing that's interesting about military service, your transition, how you grow up. I mean, every American can understand that they grew up different than somebody else. What's interesting with you is, when I look at where you're at with Team Red, White, and Blue, you kind of talked about it at the beginning, right? Where you had a sports mentality. You were already athletic. You have that mindset of selfless service, and that transpires through military service, right? So when you go in, many of those traits are there. So with me, I wasn't surprised the very first time that I had heard that you were going to Team Red, White, and Blue, because mentally it's just like, oh, of course it makes sense, because your passions, your love, your hobbies are now becoming, you wake up in the morning, you got a smile on your face because you get to do it. I mean, there are hardships in a VSO, and we're going to talk a little bit about that with Team Red, White, and Blue, because I think many see the VSO world and the landscape and they forget that, like, it is like this is like there's no better career in my mind for service members or the American population, right? Is to come in, support other people. It doesn't matter if it's veterans, if it's something for cancer, if it's for kids, whatever that thing is, because there's a satisfaction that you probably won't get in the corporate space. But what I'm interested with this is like to talk just a little bit about really the why, because Team Red, White, and Blue, with all that it does, you've got to have a story or an ending or something, a goal that you're trying to get to, right? Something that you're fighting, something you're trying to end. So for Team Red, White, and Blue, in your opinion, what of those things inspired you to join Team Red, White, and Blue to be where you are now, where you get an opportunity to impact those that are inside of the organization, and of course, military and veterans, because you guys are unique. You not only have veterans, but you also have active duty folks that are part of it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you touched upon it in terms of like my own personal kind of why, in terms of obviously, I gravitated towards team sports growing up, and whenever I talk to people about like my life and the way I see the world, like I kind of like, even if you're not a sport person, obviously I gravitate to the word team for multiple different reasons, but you're kind of born into your first team, and it may not be that you don't get to choose that one,
That's right.
But you're a member, you're a team member, and you have to participate whether you like it or not, because that's the way it all starts for all of us. And then throughout your life, you kind of get to pick and choose. Sometimes it's chosen for you, or you're directed in a path by other people, your parents, your mentors, teachers, friends, in terms of what you think your team's going to be. But you're always surrounded. I've always seen that my biggest successes in life are not attributed to myself, right?
That's right.
Somebody contributed to that at some point,
right.
whether it was my parents way back, a coach in a teacher, or, when I was in Afghanistan with guys on my SF team to my left and right that I knew I could trust, for anything, right? And they trusted me to make decisions that was going to be the right for the team and the missions we were doing. I think that translates to everybody's life. They may not see it that way. Some people say it's a village, some people say it's a community. But I'm one of these people that doesn't think there's a single individual out there, even if they're labeled the GOAT, that became that person without a team.
Agreed.
So
I agree.
So I think that's why the military was perfect for me. I think it's perfect for a lot of people that don't even know it. It's such an amazing way to give back to the nation, but also to kind of develop yourself as a person. So, the military's gotten a bad rap, I think, in terms of like coming off of 2 wars and, just seeing that there is some hardships, there is a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of resiliency, but I think, for me, the majority of what it produces, whether it's as active duty, National Guard, Reserve, or veterans, is an American that's willing to do a lot for everybody else, no matter what it is, what they, and the good thing about being a veteran is you kind of then get to choose. You're not being told on a daily basis by the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, what that is that you should think is important. But for the most part, the service continues, right? So I just think veterans in general are this like, untapped resource, as a history major in college. And so I gravitate toward this idea that one of the things that America has that nobody else has is this group of people that are willing to serve and sacrifice for this nation, and then carry that forward when they're done doing it in the military. We are just this untouched, untapped sometimes resource. So I think that's the kind of way I approached it, when I, decided like RWB is going to be the thing I'm doing. Early on, when Mike first had the idea, whether it was tied to transition or the like, for me, again, it was like, there is going to be a point that this is going to end. The military, my active duty service was going to end. And having the means to continue to connect with folks, be within a community that was willing to maybe, do things outside the norm, not just get together and drink beers and have a barbecue, which you definitely need to do in terms of like your social activity and have interactions. But the idea of you're going to continue to do challenging things, maintain your physical fitness, and have that person that's keeping you accountable besides yourself. I saw a need for that, in myself early on, Major Sullivan that was being asked by Mike Irwin to like, hey, let's get involved. That I wanted that to be a thing that existed whenever I decided I was going to hang up the boots. Back then I probably thought it was only like 5 or 6 years away, not another 15 years away, but it is what it was at that point. So getting to continue that is important to me as a member now and the chief of staff at Team RWB. I think for Team RWB's why, the mission and the vision is, forging America's leading health and wellness community, right? And there's a lot that you can unpack there. It's moved away from transition because there's so many other VSOs that do that really effectively to get people kind of out of the uniform and into the, whatever shoes they're going to wear next. And But where you had that gap was that thing that we kind of latched onto early on was like, hey, this physical fitness, this health and wellness idea of bringing those folks together. Like leaning into that a few years ago as the new mission and vision, I think really gives us our why, and this idea that unlike some of these other places, it's a mission that continues, right? It's never going to go away. And for me, like when you look at health and wellness and the spheres that can affect it, whether it's mental, spiritual, your financial,
That's right.
when it comes back to that physical fitness base, I think, there's multiple studies and that would show you, if you want to check out the science, that people that are fit and well and don't have to worry about those things in their life are much more successful in these other aspects of their wellness and health, because they can now invest more time and effort into that because they got that base, and if we can be a part of, maintaining that for folks, I think it's great. I think the community piece is critical these days, coming out of COVID and just, as a nation, we tend to I think we've retracted with technology from having those in-person touch points.
Yeah.
So I think, we're constantly trying to figure out how to get people back together, whether it's for a walk, a ruck, a 5K, a workout, and then maybe a beer or a coffee afterwards. Maintaining those things are critically important to us as well. So, I mean, I think that really drives the why, because we see this niche in the veteran space, that there is a need for an organization that focuses solely on that health and wellness piece. Yeah. We can't do it all ourselves. We have a lot of partners that we reach out to that, are doing bigger and better things when it comes to mental or brain health, that we're not going to do. But bringing those folks together, providing them access to these other things that are out there for them, I think is just a great thing that RWB exists to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think you hit it on the head. You guys kind of still are in transition if you think about it, because one of the most important things that you guys provide is a tribe, right? Like when I think about Team Red, White, and Blue, right? So the Ray that was transitioning and thinking about, oh man, I just transitioned from military. Do I want to go run 10 miles of Team Red, White, and Blue? You're missing the point, right? And I was missing the point. The point is not just about, continuing the suck fest, even though the suck fest is where you become best friends, right? Like that's where, if you think about your brothers and sisters, everybody else that you grew up with, and then those that you served with, you remember those that were with you at probably the hardest times. But really what I think you guys do, and it's why we love you guys as part of our partner, part of the coalition, everything we're trying to build here, is that you guys are a tribe. You're an opportunity for a veteran or an active duty service member, or a spouse, or a kid, absolutely, to be part of something else. Get off your laptop, your phone, other things. Come out, spend a little bit of time, talk smack with people. I think if I try to do a pull-up right now, well, it ain't going to go well, right? It's been a while since I've done a pull-up, but these are the examples of it's okay, right? The judgment-free zone is truly what it's about, because now it's just being around people that really your entire life have helped you through things. And it's some of what we see inside Mission Roll Call is that the first step's got to be finding that tribe. And that's really why we wanted you guys. You guys have been phenomenal for us thus far, since we've kind of opened up the gates of Mission Roll Call since January, is the idea that we can push people towards you and say, hey, mental health, mental wellness, physical wellness, finding a tribe like Team Red, White, and Blue's there, and there's others, but you guys are there. Find that tribe, because that first piece is going to let you meet all kinds of people that have lived a similar life and can help you through what I would say is probably the hardest part, is the transition. Because I also believe the transition never really ends, right? Especially if you're doing 5, 10, 20, 30 years in the military, that's like a quarter of your life, if not half of your life that you spend inside the military. How do you transition from something like that? Something that, you basically, you've known. Well, from there, I think I want to talk a little bit about Team Red, White, and Blue. Okay. And get a little bit more inside of the mission. And I want to dissect it a little bit, right? So we know kind of like the larger mission that you talked Absolutely. About a second ago. I really want to get into the programs. So I want you to think about two different people that are looking at this. You have Ray, and it's just going to be me. That way I don't offend anybody else, right? But Ray's looking at this, and I'm fixing to leave military, and I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to Team Red, White, Blue, because, maybe I have physically something that was weighing me down. It's part of the reason I'm getting out. So like going into something that has physical activity may not be something, or on the other side, somebody who just is an introvert. Like it's a little bit harder for them to come in. What programs do you guys offer for all veterans, all active duty, all spouses, all families, so that they can, be part of y'all's team?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is like perfect timing because we're re-looking at ourselves right now in terms of the evolution of like any organization, and how the environment changes around us. How we do our business as Team Red, White, and Blue really isn't changing, but how we talk about, or what we talk about, and what we do for the members is kind of getting rebranded and bend a little bit differently to kind of, I think, make it a little bit more intuitive for folks like Ray to understand. Like, okay, if I sign up for Team RWB, what am I getting from these guys? What do they provide?
That's right.
I've joked too. Like when I first came on RWB, I did like an internship because the Army allows you to do that before I came on full time. And my dad even asked, a Vietnam vet, he's like, what? You love it. You think it's one of the greatest things. You've been doing it for years. Dad Sullivan, he goes, but when I go to the website, what is it you guys do? Is it a running club? Like what exactly do you guys provide? Right. So we've relooked that recently. And we've kind of like bended into 5 separate programs. And first and foremost, when it comes to like Sully, who's this open to? The question is really everybody. So we talk about veterans, we talk about active duty, reserve, guard, obviously all the people in the uniform that ever wore the uniform. It doesn't matter how you got out. You're welcome at Team RWB, right? Because we want you to be a part of the community.
That's right.
Because whether you did just one term of service or you did 30 years like myself, that crucible of the military and how it touches your life is significant. Right. And like you said, you're always going to be transitioning from that, That's right. I mean, just ask a Marine. A Marine is always a Marine.
That's right.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So, the Army's trying to do that with Soldier for Life, but the Marines are special. I mean, you're a Marine forever. Yeah. But but everybody, it's open to everybody, but it's also open not only to our spouses, our children, it's open to people within the community here. Like in Fayetteville, we have people that work in the county. They have no touch other than they live in a place where there's a base, and they wanted to hang out with other veterans and like be a part of like hearing their stories and sharing, why they care about the country or their, thank people for their service. So they just wanted to be a part of Team RWB for that camaraderie and community so it's really open to everybody. It doesn't exclude, but we focus on the veteran. All right.
But that helps, right? I mean, I think that's important too, is that me as a veteran, active duty, family member, whatever, if it would have been nice as I was transitioning, as I think about it, to just, have somebody that I could have had a conversation with, that there's no pressure of, I'm not asking them for a job. I'm not like, hey, can you just help me understand how's the hiring process, or, is school a good idea? And then like what pays, like all of these just generalized question. I think you guys have like, it's these little hidden stories also, right?
Yeah.
That Team Red, White, and Blue does, because you're having a side conversation while you're, getting smoked. I'm just kidding. You're not going to get smoked, right? You're not gonna have a drill sergeant over you, but I do see Mike. I could just see him like knife handing me as I'm doing. And Mike, you're not knife handing me. All right, Sully, just stop. But right. Can you? I mean, I think that's what.
Let me get to my next point.
Exactly.
Sorry. No, and then so as we look at it programmatically, one of the things that we have that I think is unique to our organization, and there's a few other that have it, is we really leaned into the Team RWB application. We have an app that's everybody can have on their phone, every member, and we're pulling kind of our the scheduling of events and things off of what was traditionally done on Facebook into the application, because it provides us not only a place for people to kind of see what's going on. There is a little bit of a social media aspect. There's some programmatic aspect that I'll get into in terms of providing information on other, people's health journey when it comes to nutrition, sleep. Right. If they want to become a better runner or just walk their first 5K, right? So there's some of this stuff that our application has allowed us to really see and move towards a future that's reaching a lot more people. So when you first look at the app, and I like to describe our programs like kind of in a military aspect to our folks because they're mostly veterans. we see the first program that lives kind of with the app is what we call the digital garrison. So when you assign to your first, duty station, whether you're in the Marines, the Navy, you got a base, you got a garrison, you got a home base, a place that you're going to live. It's that place where you kind of interact with your neighbors on your left and your right. You find out what the schedule is for the day. You can maybe do a little bit of local training, and it's preparing you for like the missions that life's going to have for you. Right.
Yeah.
So as a member, you sign up, you get into the app, and you're living in that digital garrison, and you become part of that virtual community that kind of gives you the touch points to our other programs. Within there, again, the scheduling of like your day-to-day like things with your local chapter, you'll find in the digital garrison, as well as, other stuff that's going on. What spins out of that is then what we affectionately term as our program of ground operations, right? So, this is where like your missions are happening. And ideally, these are the in-person events that we provide our members we do like a monthly mission each month that highlights like a generation or a period of time in American like veteran history, relatively kind of like our histories, from, the Gulf War chocolate chipper in January to bigger ones like, a firecracker on the 4th of July run, but events that, are tied to America, tied to service, that kind of highlight. So those happen once a month nationally. Everybody has the opportunity to do them. Ideally in person. You could do them virtually if there's no other Eagles around you, and like put your times or how well you did or suffered through it in the app in the digital garrison. But those monthly missions live in our ground operations. It's something we plan as these events that people can come out to do. They can train for, because they're going to be a little bit harder. They're scaled, so they're open to just about everybody, but it provides everyone a reason to kind of come together, get that community out there, and kind of suffer together, embrace the suck. We also do Eagle expeditions. We're trying to expand those. Right now we do 4 or 5 of those a year, where we get 20 to 30 veterans. We go into backcountry, like we just got out of the Grand Canyon just this past week, and then it's geared towards a resiliency kind of training program. So it's not just a camping trip, but it gives veterans a chance to talk about the things they're struggling with. An idea of getting out there again, maybe doing something outside of their comfort level with another group of folks that they'll get to know. And then, they take that as a catalyst to continue their journey within the larger community when they get back home, whether it's again online on the digital garrison or doing in-person events with the rest of their kind of family and friends in their community, like local community. We within the app, we have another program that we call Eagle Fit, and this provides us our platform within the app to do longer challenges and kind of like training based like programs for the members. So, we've done like hydration challenges for a month to teach people, hey, you should be drinking a lot more water, and this is what it does for you in terms of your mental health, your physical health, and here's the challenge for the day: drink this much water. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can check in and say, okay, I did that. And you get some of the kind of educational understanding of why you're doing these things. We've done a sleep challenge. We're doing a plank challenge right now for your core. So it provides you these other kind of modules within Eagle Fit, that program, to get on the app. It provides you that platform to do both virtual and in-person things to kind of challenge yourself and to educate yourself in your own health and wellness journey. And we're bringing in more like experts in their field to kind of provide us that information within Eagle Fit to get people to where they want to go. It's kind of at your own pace. We joke about it that it's that online training that you actually want to do, that everybody hated when they were in the service. But, again, it provides you a little bit more ownership of your own health and wellness journey if you get into Eagle Fit and start doing some of the programming. The fourth thing is what we call our Eagle Alliance. So I like to equate that to, America doesn't go to war by itself, right? We always have partners. We have allies. When we're out there on the battlefield, we're with them on our left and right during the war on terror. So the idea is there are going to be things that we can't do for ourselves. So, we one example is, we're a part of the Veterans Wellness Alliance instituted by the Bush Foundation. They have this process, called check-in that we, so if our members identify that they need help with either brain health or a mental, thing that they're going through, they have a mental injury that's no different than any other injury that you could have in your life. You just got to work on it, right? We can't provide that expertise ourselves through any of the other programs. So we ask people to hit that check-in button, and that provides them that free access. If they need additional help, clinical help, they can get that through that alliance that we have with the Veterans Wellness Alliance to go to these, clinicians, ideally in their area or hooked to virtually. And based on the level of need, they can get, again, moving forward with their health and wellness journey that way. And we're expanding that both with nonprofit organizations and other organizations that provide new technology. Like there's one called Sword Health that provides like a remote physical therapy that they provided a whole bunch of. We've done a pilot program with them. I was one of the members. You strap these things on, you do all the stretching. It forces you to be accountable each day to the things you should be doing to work on the stuff that you broke over the time you were in the military. So we're working to build out that Eagle Alliance as our fourth program. And then the fifth program is like the newest thing that we haven't done before. And we're developing basically a scholarship program. So it's going to be our Health and Wellness Scholarship Fund. And the idea there is if we have members that want to become a certified personal trainer, we're working with the University of Health and Performance in Arkansas, where is probably the premier place where you go for several weeks that, you could use, apply for one of our scholarships. It's up to like $9,500 that we'll provide to pay for you. And ideally for us, you get a member moving towards their own goals of maybe a new, whether it's their actual like profession they want to go forward with health and wellness. And then you got an Eagle that, is actually providing like professional expertise back to their community. When they get together and they start doing that workout, that person can actually use that experience to help out the people on the team. So it's, it provides us, just as much or even more back to the community than it provides an individual. And we're expanding it, ideally for like running programs or CrossFit level 1, so that, our members will have opportunities to do things that potentially they can't afford to do for themselves, that will then benefit the health and wellness of the community. So it's kind of those 5 big programs: the Digital Garrison, Ground Ops, Eagle Fit, the Eagle Alliance, and then the Scholarship Fund that we're going to kind of lean into in 2025 and beyond, to really kind of give our members a menu of things they can do with their health and wellness journey.
Is there anything, and those are all phenomenal, Sully. It's always interesting to look at nonprofits and see. It's one thing you love, right? You expand and you retract based off of your audience and what you're trying to support. And Team Red, White, and Blue, I've watched it change many times over the years. It's always kept its core foundation, which is always something you want to keep, but you need to change based off of like the time period we're in. From your perspective, for the veterans that are coming in, the family members, the kids, the National Guard, reserves, all the folks that you're seeing and that are coming into Team Red, White, and Blue, what do you think the biggest challenges that you're hearing from veterans in general?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, what I think most everybody's seeing is that that first year to 3 years in a veteran's kind of transition life, if they don't find a Team RWB or one of the other veterans support organizations that are out there that can help them with like their journey, and they kind of fall off and start to isolate themselves and kind of get lost in, this limbo of transition that doesn't like, I got it. You're going to continue to work on yourself, like you mentioned earlier, but I'm talking like hardcore. I'm sitting on the couch. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. I'm eating more and more. My nutrition's fallen off. I used to be able to run a 2 mile in this amount of time, and now I couldn't even walk 2 miles. We're seeing that grow, across the country, and it's concerning. I think right now the data tells you that historically veterans were more healthy than the population of the United States, the general population of civilians, right? Right now, the data is actually saying that this, for the first time in history, we're less healthy. We're having more, physical issues in terms of just the wear and tear in our body, that then lead into potentially, those mental injuries that you just continue to deal with, and you're not working on. And again, it's not like one approach, it's holistic, right? So you need to kind of like find that thing. So really trying to engage those folks and trying to like find the way to get them involved early on, whether it's Team Red, White, and Blue, or just in themselves, to invest in themselves, to maintain and try to continue on with what they had. It doesn't mean you have to get up every morning at 6:30, salute the flag, face right, and take off, and start chanting cadence in your head. Nobody wants that.
Although you should, just to be clear.
But the idea of just keep walking every day, get in that mile walk where you can have time, maybe alone, to just kind of with your thoughts. Like I do my best thinking, and some of my best ideas and some of my best reflection happens on a 3 or 4 mile run. You get through the suck of like getting moving, but then once you're kind of going, like things start flowing, you're out in nature, you're taking in, some fresh air, and it really kind of clears my head. Like I think mentally for me, there's no better like pill I could ever take than maybe I just go for a walk or go for a run, or lift some weights.
Lift something heavy, go lift a car or something. I use the little small cars, like little, like
matchbox cars. Yeah,
the matchbox car.
But I think, people lose the fact that it was driven into them. So because it wasn't fun in the military, a lot of times that you lose the real meaning behind it, that it was setting you up for success where you could deal with the hard times because you were physically ready for that. And even mentally, it provided some resilience. So getting after that, I think, is critical for us right now. Right. And how we do that is part of like why we're changing some of the ways we do things, for our members. Like a lot of people have moved to a virtual environment, even, COVID obviously pushed us even further that way, but
faster.
This idea that I think there's some positive aspects of being able to find community that you wouldn't find, 2 houses over in your neighborhood via the app with some people. You might reconnect with people that you were with in the service because they're members, but they live, 5 states away. But you get this shared experience and you can kind of individualize like your journey a little bit more than, well, my local group only likes to do CrossFit workouts and I'd really like to find a run group. So we're trying to like provide more opportunities for the members to kind of experience what they need to experience to continue that journey. Right. We personally think the in-person interaction needs to happen. So that's why we do the monthly missions. That's why we encourage people to go to their local events. I go twice a week in Fayetteville on Tuesdays and Thursdays they do a 5K, and, my wife walks. Sometimes I walk with her. Sometimes I jog, sometimes I run with the fast group, and, it's great just to see a bunch of people and hear them say, "Hey, Sully's here," and we take our photo and we talk about what's happened in the last couple of days, and you just move while you're doing it. I mean, it's incredible what that does for me each week. So we're trying to provide those opportunities as well, So it's a balance, though. It's a challenge, right? As the world evolves, and the goodness of the app is like social media can be something that's people really get into, but we want people to get in there, find out what they need to do for the day, kind of check in with some friends. We kind of call it that safe space. It's apolitical. Just talk about health and wellness. So that's where we're really trying to drive, so we can maintain that touch point with those people in that first couple of years, and then provide a place for people to come back to. Because, your life is going to take you in other directions. You're going to get to a point where, your kids are playing soccer every Saturday and they got practice every week. So you might not be hanging out with, the Team RWB folks, or you haven't been in a while, but you could always dust off the red shirt, show up at a 5K, and I guarantee you there's going to be 10 other people wearing the shirt. They're going to be like, "Hey, man, another RWB guy," So I have that.
Yeah, and I think what you said was really important, and to dissect this and make sure I say it correctly. So get me if I jack this up, Sully. But number one, Number one thing you're saying to the listeners, whoever it is, because transition is not only the spouse or the service member, it's also the spouse, it's also the kids, right? All three of which should look for their tribe, because it is a very volatile time period, right? And we'll continue to work through that through advocacy, along with you guys and many others to try to get that closer. But that's number one, find the tribe. From that tribe, when you look at organizations like Team Red, White, and Blue, remember that the initial thing for this is to find a tribe. One of the things I thought about was when I started my corporate work, the one things that we definitely learn in the military is like work, right? And in many ways that's good and bad. The good is that the work ethic, the initiative, the ability to problem solve, like all of these things. But the bad is sometimes we put others ahead of ourselves. And that happens. And when you take, the longer you're in the military, the longer it is. And I found when I first left service that physical fitness was not my priority. You know what I mean? Like it's transitioning, it's take care of my family, worrying about bills, like all these things, not knowing what I wanted to do. I start to roll. We get about 2-3 years corporate life. And I'm like, dude, why are my knees hurting? Why is my leg? Now, these are all things that when I was going through the benefit, okay, I'm one of those guys. I went to the benefit pro. I was like, yeah, okay, we're good. Yeah, doesn't matter. I got hurt. We're good. Just I'll go. We'll make sure it's in my record. So later on, thinking it ain't going to be me. 5 years later, I'm like, what happened? COVID ended. Now I got to get up, go walk outside, and I'm like, dude, I can't even touch my toes anymore. So like right now, well, now it's a little bit different, but at that time period, it was like, man, I'm not stretching. I'm not moving. Like I am literally working, sleeping, working. You got to take care of yourself. So a lot of these hidden things were happening to me, and I'm okay talking about them, but the anxieties, hey man, I'm going to emergency room. I have no idea what's happening because I'm lightheaded. I like literally passed out after a corporate meeting. I went to talk to my wife. I was like, I went from cold to hot. I went and laid down in my bedroom. I didn't wake up till the next day, 24 hours later. And when I got up, I was like, what just happened? That has never happened to me, right? And then of course you go start getting all the things. As soon as I started physical fitness again, as soon as I started talking to people, and it was you guys. So like it was somebody that I know that's part of Team Red, White, and Blue, Chris McNamara. You guys have some really good folks that, obviously serve with these guys. I was listening and watching something and they said something. I was like, man, maybe I'll try. Within like 30 days, I completely felt different. I was sleeping longer. Like all of these things you just said, yep. I truly believe that you're right. Like you have to. So talk me through, and I know you're not, maybe you are. I'm going to caveat it by saying you may not be a medical professional, right? Like these are just opinions based off of, how you feel, because you should always, how your body feels. Your body tells you when something ain't right. You know what I mean? Like right. Your body doesn't tell you. But from your perspective, mentally and physically, how important is it to just do something? So if you can't do full push-ups, do something. Like stretch. Do anything other than drink soda, and not find something. How important is that, Sully?
It's critically important. I'm not a medical professional, but again, the idea, I have a friend, guy named Johnny Glenn that I served with SFD. He always jokes, he's like, motion is lotion. He goes like,
that's right. That's right.
Like you'll start to like lock up, things will start to hurt the day you stop moving. Like, he goes, and it doesn't take a lot. He's like, I just walk around, I got farm animals and stuff now, and just going out and working on the farm every day, moving around. I don't have to run 100,000 miles. I don't have to do a bunch of burpees. Like that just does more for me to be outside doing something, moving. Right. And I see it the same way, like personally, again, I'm not for me, like I came off a cold last week. I was down hard, like sitting on the couch. It was in my chest, in my head. I didn't want to run. I wasn't running. I wasn't lifting weights. Finally got over it this weekend, went for a 6-mile run on Monday. And like the rest of the day, I was like, I feel so good.
Yeah.
Like, because it's those endorphins. I mean, there is, you can read, you don't have to be a medical professional, but if you read about the benefits of, walking, jogging, or, for you, there is something to it. I mean, it releases all these different chemicals, you do get to get out. It's even better. I personally think we we're looking into it now. We have a partnership with Fitbit, and I was like, hey, have you ever looked at someone's like heart rate? Do they run faster? Do they, recovery, all these things biometrically, because we wear all these things now.
Yeah.
Does it show that they're better when they're with 2 or 3 other people? Because me personally, I could go on a 6-mile run by myself. I'm fine. I go with 2 other guys. It's great because we talk about work, we talk about life, we talk about what we're going to do this weekend. We tell old stories, whatever it is. And usually I find out like, wow, we were running that fast. I didn't realize our pace was that high, So, there's something to it. So they're like, we're going to take a look at that. And it's something we're looking at as well, because I think it speaks to the power of what we do as, Team RWB, getting people together for those kinds of events. But yeah, I think there's so much to it. And it's not, you don't have to crush yourself. It's not, get somebody knife handing you. It's not, a boot camp type of atmosphere. Like, it should be something you enjoy. Find the thing that you like, whether it's cycling, running, walking, rucking. We have all these different groups within the app that you can, yoga. I mean, there's so many things that you can do that gets the heart rate going, gets you moving, and kind of gets all that stuff working for you. So I just think it's critical. Yeah, you just can't stop. Like, you don't stop.
Yeah.
I encourage my dad, who's in his 80s, like, get out and continue to walk.
Yeah.
He's all these issues himself, and I'm like, you feel better on the days you walk and the ones you don't. So.
And it's powering through that.
Yeah, it's just I think it's the power of what we're trying to do.
That's right.
Because it helps when you have that accountability and that person that's kind of like, are you showing up Tuesday to the 5K walk, or are you what's going on? You haven't been around in a while, And some of the other things we're doing technology wise, we're gonna, if people want and they want to have their Fitbit and all their data, in the app, the way I see it is the future is that you would open, your digital garrison. It would be like, hey, your sleep was great. It looks like you did this yesterday, but you really haven't done these 3 things. And oh, by the way, if you check it out, this is what's going on in Fayetteville today. So my suggestion to you is do this. Your little Eagle AI guys telling you to do stuff. Like, I think that's the future of fitness and health for a lot of people. Yeah. We just want to provide that free to veterans and their supporters, and you know what I mean? So, but
when you just said it like that, I think of all the things you said, that's it. I mean, you guys are providing a service for free, right? So you don't have to go and find, not saying that people can't, right? It's your money. I truly believe, there's a reason absolutely. That we all, fought for the Constitution and did all the things that we did for freedom, is that you are allowed to spend the money the way you want to spend it. But when you have an organization that has, mental and physical based subject matter experts, because there is, I know you guys have got those inside your organizations, that's what they do. And they want to give this away to their brothers and sisters and all of that for free. Utilize it. So step 1, introvert, extrovert, doesn't matter. Come on in. The best thing I like to do is buy before you try. So download the app. If I understand, Apple, Google, where all can we get?
Yeah, both. Yeah, you can get it App Store. Yeah, so it's on both Android and Apple platforms. So the again, it's the Team RWB app. You can get there from teamrwb.org if you go to the website. There's a link from
and I'm going to download
Instagram page
today.
Download it today. It's going to ask you kind of some of your history in terms of like, we're not going to ask a lot, but just like where you came from, what kind of veteran you are you active duty, are you a civilian supporter? You can put all that information in there. We do ask each person to take what we call the Enriched Life Survey, which is a way for us to kind of allow you to grade where you're at with your health and wellness journey and where you're starting out. If you indicate in there some things like, that you're really struggling with maybe some mental health, we'll immediately say, hey, check out the check-in process. So we immediately try to like link people up to something right away if we think they're in need. And then someone's going to reach out and they're going to help you with kind of your onboarding journey, but you can start to do it within the app to kind of find out, hey, I'm in Fayetteville. Here's the local team. Oh, look at that. They get together on Thursday downtown to walk, run, 5K. You might check that out, right? Or they got this coming up for the 9/11 stair climb next month. I would love to do a stair climb. Oh, look, they got one going at Segra Stadium. I'll sign up for that. So these opportunities will exist within the app for you to kind of buy, try, and decide. And then you just kind of take it from there. If you are a veteran, you we'll put in your address and we'll send you a red t-shirt, to get you in the Eagle, and then you go from there and your journey starts.
You guys have schmediums? Because that's what I need.
Yeah, you look like
guns out.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out.
Yeah.
Okay, just use your own scissors to cut the sleeves off.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. I'm going to rip it. That way it just looks better. I'm going to have jean shorts on too. That's nice. The first one. So here's my challenge. What I'm not going to do right now because it's rude because you're on the podcast, but I'm going to download this thing immediately. Right. So as soon as we get off, yep. I'm jumping feet in. So I'm not just saying it like I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk the walk. So everybody that's listening, join, come talk smack to me, right? Come in there, be part of this thing. I believe in Team Red, White, Blue, the mission that they have. They obviously are a partner, but it's more than that, right? Like I don't say nice things about people. I don't talk about people at all unless I believe in what they're doing. Let me not say nice things, but just bottom line is, I believe in what Team Red, White, and Blue is doing and almost all VSOs where we're all trying to get to a say. So I'm going to be there. Challenge me. I promise you, I will crush you in thumb wars. Right? Maybe not burpees. Like let's not get crazy here, but I'm pretty sure thumb wars is a type of physical activity. We can walk while we're doing it. Okay. Like this is important. I'm all about these things. Okay. Now let's talk about the other thing. Okay. So I feel the normal veteran, the spouse, the kids, our army, yep. All those, they know where to go, right? They know where to get this, be part of what you guys are doing. And we may talk about that a little bit more. One thing I want to talk about is like your collaboration with VSOs. And you hit on that a little bit, like that you guys are starting that process. How important is it in your mind that all of us VSOs have got to come together, right? We got to come together because if we're trying to stamp out issues and concerns and things, the only way we can do that is by kind of having one voice, right? And that's one organization. That's just saying that we all got to be marching to the same drum. We can't be all out of step because drill sergeant's going to come flying from the left side and scuff somebody up, right? But if you can talk about that, how important are other VSOs to you guys in regards to the mission that you guys have at Team Red, White, and Blue?
Yeah, I think it's critically important, right? I talked about in the military that, the U.S. military never does anything together. I mean, sure. One service never does anything by itself, So, I mean, sure. It provides, that combined arms team, having the Air Force jet to drop bombs and, right. all the things, right, have to come together. So that translates into the veteran space as well. I think right now, for America, the good news story is we're not talking about the military and veterans like we were during the height of two wars going on simultaneously. I mean, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. The military DOD will tell you there's just as many people deployed or stationed overseas as they were at the height of those wars. But the narrative is changed like it always does in American history. And we start to focus on other internal issues and problems and things that we're all concerned about. And the military is always going to be there for you, whether you're talking about them or not. The challenge is when you look at the veteran population, that's like the Gulf, the Gulf War veterans are, they'll say they've been long forgotten. The War on Terror veterans are still like, you should be talking about us. But really they're almost all, I mean, there's except for people that are in kind of senior ranks, the majority of the service is people that didn't serve in either one of those wars. It's getting to over 50% now, right? So you got another generation of folks that are coming in now, behind us that have a completely different experience. And the fact that you don't have that American on the street who recognizes, well, that looks like a military t-shirt, or he's wearing a uniform. I'm going to thank this person for their service. And I always thank those people for their support. The problem is, like, more now than ever, those veterans probably need that, not necessarily that attention, but that help, right? Because it is a community kind of like, effort to take care of those people on their left and right. It's back to my kind of team analogy. So it's tough because we're not necessarily being recognized, but it's just not in the narrative as it used to be. So it's great, I think, for the country to kind of like heal from the wounds of war and talk about other things. For the veterans, it's pretty hard, especially when America went hard for my generation.
Oh yeah,
like my dad's generation, because of what happened. I think they recognized how they treated a lot of the Vietnam veterans, especially towards the end of the war, and how they were treated. They're like, never again. We're not going to blame the military for the decisions of the decision makers. we're going to love these people and thank every single one of them for their service. And it was like overboard. It got to the point where you're like, hey, I'm just doing this because I love my job.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we love you guys. And you don't hear that as much anymore. And I think a lot of people feel like, okay, you know, a little bit like, are we being forgotten? So I think in the veteran space, and you're feeling it a little bit because people start to donate to other organizations, which they should. I mean, there's other needs in America, you know, there's kids with cancer, there's other issues that are going on. There's homelessness, there's, you know, all this other stuff, which is good. But I think we're all kind of like looking at it in the veteran space of, okay, we are going to be better together, and we got to continue to row and do the same things that we've been doing. We can't give up on ourselves, because then we're going to give up on those people that we really want to take care of. Right.
Yeah.
So you nailed it. We got to come together. We got to find ways to support each other on our left and right. You know, there's organizations out there that are continuing to try to, you know, champion and tell the stories, of the memories of those that are falling, you know, like Wear Blue, who to remember. Like, we don't want to lose a Wear Blue to remember.
That's right.
Because, you know, everyone's like, well, that was so long ago when that guy passed away and died for his country. And it's like, no, we should still recognize that, you know, and them teaming up with, you know, Team RWB to bring our, you know, two organizations together or do that 5K that they're putting on. We absolutely want to make sure we're supporting that. Like, you know, that's not competition. We're taking care of those veterans and those veterans' families that are just as important to the organization that we're trying to, you know, the people we're trying to take care of. So I think that's where you're going to see, I think, and I see it happening. I think, you know, we're all kind of talking to each other in different ways. We're trying to make sure that we're providing, you know, support where we can in terms of where our mission touches their missions. Because I think that's the way we continue to go through this together to take care of that resource, which is America's veterans, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And their supporters, you know, so so, you know, the times, you know, it's just the natural ebb and flow, in this nation. So it might feel lean for the veteran community, but I think the goodness is we are coming together to make sure they continue to get the support, the community, and really champion them as, you know, this positive influence for good. That's the way I see veterans, you know, that America needs to see them as. So,
no, I completely agree. And there's so many, there's nothing but good, right? I mean, at the end of the day, and out of that, you know, out of hardships, you're going to have things that happen. I mean, that's the reality of just life in general. It doesn't matter what job you're in, right? So the same thing, we talk about PTS often. And I actually have a friend that has PTS, but getting hit by a car has nothing to do with military service, right? Like there is a natural reaction that happens anytime we get near a car. And it's just not something that you would expect, but that's what it is. I mean, and it's no different, I think, and some of these just get kind of lumped up into the thing. I think you bring good points for all of that, you know, from my perspective, all VSOs working together, one family, one team. We all served together. We all dug holes together. We all fought together. Doesn't matter where, National Guard, Reserve, you know, Coast Guard, questionable. I'm just kidding, Coasties. You guys work too. I'm completely kidding. But all of us did something important in different ways. We would not be where we are today. And that can't end. Right. And sometimes it's not just about the service member, it's about the family, because they'll never forget. Right. And it's, when I think of me, it's not me that I just think about my family. I'm like, man, the years that I spent, you know, the decade plus that I spent away from my family when I was out doing things, like they're the ones that really are still living through that hardship. And I don't even know how it really impacts them. You know, like, honestly, it's kind of like, I know how it impacts me because I'm me and I feel it, but man, I have no idea how it impacts them. So I think you hit it straight on the head. We just continue to do the things that we're doing. The last thing I'm going to ask you, a personal question. What's your advice to veterans as it relates to mental health, right? We talked a lot about physical, right? We talked about me watching you do burpees while I'm drinking a soda. I'm kidding. I'm not going to do that solely, but we talked about, you know, the physical side, how important
I don't like burpees, so you're not going to see me doing burpees.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. I'm not the only one. Yeah, like when you said yoga, I was like, okay. I used to be the guy that was like, okay, dude, yoga, come on. I did a session of yoga. Pilates, stop. Like if I saw that on the app, I'm like, I don't know what direction I got to swipe, but I'm moving past that as fast as possible because I thought it would be easy. I'm like, that's got to be easier than doing a CrossFit workout. I would rather go do a CrossFit workout than that yoga Pilates, because there is something to do with that, man. That's just dangerous. So for those that do that, good for you. I'm impressed. Okay, so back to the question. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Let your personal advice, just veterans on mental health, because I think this is the hardest thing for all of us, and I'm going to say me as well. Okay, this is not lost on me. Is just being okay, man, to reach out to somebody when something ain't right. So just from your personal perspective, how important is mental health, and what Team Red, White, and Blue is doing, and then just your personal thoughts on be part of a tribe or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, it's critical. I mean, there's no other way to say it in terms of like getting through each day, you know, that what the world's going to throw at you, being, you know, having some base and understanding of where you're at mentally, and then how the world is going to affect you is critical. You know, I don't think, you know, I think that, you're not a victim, right? You know, I think that's the victimization of mental health is a problem, you know, because I don't think that anyone should be seeing that it's, you know, I used to say this, you know, the Army was really pushing that, hey, we got to get back ahead of this problem when I was in, and it was hitting big when I was a battalion commander. The only way I could think about it was, I got in front of the entire formation and I was like, look, guys, and you're talking to special operators who are like, if I show any sense of weakness, whether it's physical or mental, I'm off the team. I don't get to go on the deployment, and I don't get to do the thing I love. You know, but the way I would equate it to everybody is like, hey, look, you break your ankle or you get shot. We are going to do everything physically possible to get you back on the team as fast as possible.
That's right.
And everyone's going to be able to see it. Like, you go on a 6-mile run and you're limping because you did something to your ankle over the weekend and you didn't want someone to know. Your team's going to see it, and they're going to be like, hey, man, if you can't move, you're letting the rest of us down. So let's get that ankle fixed, or that knee, or whatever, right? These physical injuries that everybody could see. The problem is with the mental ones, we're not willing to treat it the same way. You know, so I was a big fan of like saying, hey, you don't have a mental illness or a mental disease. It's a mental injury. Like, you should treat it the same way as you blew out your ACL. It's going to take a while to rehab that ACL to get back on the team, but you have to do that, you know, and I would, you know, with the team guys, you could equate to that idea that you don't want to let down your people on your left and your right. It's the same thing with life, right? Again, for me, you're always a part of a team, whether you're working a corporate job, whether, you know, and you're single, or you have a big family that you're still taking care of. There's going to be people to your left and right that care about whether Ray or Mike are showing up to work with, you know, with the base to handle it for the day. You know, you want to be physically fit, so you're not going to get winded walking up a flight of stairs, and, you know, you get lightheaded and you can't do the rest of the meeting because you're not taking care of yourself, your physical health, right? Same thing with your mental health, right? If something's giving you anxiety because you're triggered by something, it's okay to talk to somebody about that and then to work on it. People are going to help you to work on it. That's the trust factor, that whether it's your Team RWB family, your work family, your family itself, you know, it's finding those things that you can work on, figuring those out, and then finding the tools to get after it. You know, you may never fix it. You know, I have injuries from when I jumped out of airplanes and other things that I will have for the rest of my life. I know when I go for a long run, my right Achilles is going to hate me for the next day, you know, but I love long runs enough that I'm going to do the right stretching, and I'm going to do the other stuff that I can continue to do those things. It's the same thing with your mental health. Like, you may never get past this thing that you're going to have to deal with, but you can make it better. So you can continue to enjoy those things that you want to enjoy and be there present for yourself. Again, it's that take care of yourself first. Like, you got this opportunity now, especially as a veteran, to focus on you, and then do something about it. Like, look positively about it, you know, again, and everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different. For me, like, you know, I've talked to people about my stress, the challenges that I've had over 30 years of seeing different things and doing different things, and how I've handled it. And again, like I mentioned earlier, like, for me, there's no better medicine than ideally going with a couple other people, but even this, you know, getting out on the road for 5 or 6 miles to clear my head, to really think through the process, to have those conversations you have with yourself. Kind of, whether it's alone or with somebody else that I trust, that's a mental health event for me.
That's right.
As much as it is getting myself ready for my next, marathon or whatever, so it's finding those things. And I think it could start small, with just walking and thinking. And for some people, it's much bigger. It's hitting that check-in button, and maybe it's an in-person, treatment facility that's going to help you really work through those processes. And then ideally, you come out of that, you get right back on the team. There's people that are happy that you're back and you're doing better, and they continue to help you with that journey. Team RWB does that for you. There's other organizations that will do that for you. But you can't ignore it. Don't allow yourself to be the victim. Like, take control and trust those people around you that they're going to help you through that, just like they were any other thing that is challenging you with your life, especially, any other health and wellness thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think this adage is for something completely different, but small things don't get better over time. Right. Yeah. So it's, I think of anything, and for the listeners, for those, appreciate you guys being here today. One of the things I'll leave you with is that, sometimes if it's hard for you yourself to be the person that's go to Team Red, White, and Blue, also think about your mates, right? Think about the folks you serve with on your left and right. Remember that this service that Team Red, White, and Blue is providing you is to be part of a tribe, to be part of something bigger than yourself. And believe it or not, that's why we all did what we did, right? And it's why we all continue to do what we do. So don't be shy. If it makes it easier for you to challenge a buddy, to get them to come over, that way you can watch them sweat, right? And then you got a permanent profile while they're sweating. That's fine. Do you, but being part of that tribe is going to be so much better. Sully, I can't thank you enough, first and foremost, man, for 30 years of service to our great nation, man. So thank you. Please thank your kids for carrying that torch, right? Literally and figuratively, for all that they're doing. And that's all of them. That's not the ones just in service. That's all of them. I think they have the biggest challenge, our kids do, as the world continues to progress, for all the things that we're doing. And more importantly, for you, thank you for continuing to be a selfless leader by stepping into a role inside of a veteran service organization like Team Red, White, and Blue, and being a small part. And I know that you think this way, but being a small part of something much bigger to continue to impact our brothers and sisters. And I'd love to pass it over to you for any final comments that you have on your side, and also plug Team Red, White, and Blue so folks know where to go.
Yeah. So just one last time, if you encourage everybody that's listening to check out, if you're not already a member or you're not already an Eagle, that's what we call the members, go to teamrwb.org and you'll find, you'll see the description of all the new programs that I just laid out. That's going to be going live here on September 1st. So I think that will already be live by the time this hits the air. And you can learn a little bit more about ourselves, and then click on that button to download the app, take your Enriched Life survey, see where you're at with your health and wellness journey. And then, test me, like try by and decide and see if this, this is right for you. I think you're going to find that there's a wonderful group of people that are just in it for you, as well as you being able to be in it for yourself. It's going to provide just so many opportunities for you to continue on your health and wellness journey. So look forward to a whole bunch of new members coming out of this. I really want to thank you, Ray, and the Mission Roll Call folks. The champion, the voice of veterans, is something that, we don't particularly maybe do well all the time for ourselves, but having you there and the team kind of taking that on and continuing to press forward and telling our stories is absolutely incredible. This has been an awesome opportunity. It's great to get to represent Team Sullivan and Team RWB. Yeah. And I really just thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, just tell your daughter you did well, right? This is an Olympian, size, but you did okay, right? Like if I was, I would say you didn't make it to the games. Like, I'm just going to be honest, like you were, but you got close. So Sully, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We will definitely see you again, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Ray.
All right. See ya.